This story begins in a quiet house, where illness has lingered for a long time. Robert lies in bed, weakened by the cancer consuming him day by day. His breathing is uneven, his movements nearly non-existent, and the slightest change in the room wakes him up. Beside him are his wife Barbara and his daughter Megan, who have taken on the constant care of him. Megan walks tiredly down the hallway, her face marked by sleepless nights. She enters the room and finds Barbara adjusting pillows, checking medicine bottles, and making sure everything is in order. The routine is always the same: turn Robert to prevent sores, gently clean him, offer him sips of water, and monitor the drops of morphine. Robert calls for Barbara over and over, seeking comfort in her voice. Megan tries to help, but her clumsy movements create tension. Barbara corrects her sharply, and Megan apologizes. Together, they manage to reposition Robert's fragile body. The scene is routine but exhausting, each gesture heavy with pain and fatigue. One day, a palliative care nurse arrives. She checks Robert's condition, asks about his appetite and how often the pain comes. She recommends adjusting the doses and giving the full amount of morphine instead of splitting it up. Megan nods, but Barbara resists. She insists that too much medicine leaves Robert unconscious and that he would rather not feel so sedated. The nurse explains that the goal is to keep him pain-free, but Barbara doesn't budge. Megan watches in silence, caught between the medical advice and her mother's stubbornness. Outside the room, another conflict erupts. Megan asks for financial support to continue a scholarship project she once planned with her father. Robert had promised to help, but now he can't. Barbara, overwhelmed with medical bills and expenses, refuses outright. Megan insists it isn't money for her, but for students in need. The discussion escalates into years of built-up resentment. Barbara loses her glasses, unable to read her spreadsheets, and Megan silently hands them back. Later, Megan tries to convince Barbara to step out of the house for a while. She suggests dinner or a short movie, anything to help her rest. Barbara rejects the idea, afraid to leave Robert alone, but eventually, she reluctantly agrees to go out for a few hours. Megan stays in charge. She sits by the bed, adjusts the blanket, and offers her father some water. The silence is heavy. Suddenly, she hears her phone alarm and panics. Thinking it's time, she administers another dose of morphine. Moments later, she realizes she was too early. Barbara returns at that exact moment and finds out what happened. The tension explodes, shouting, accusations, blame. They check the hours, review notes, and argue about whether to call someone. They talk about the do not resuscitate order and the clinic's limits. But everything stops when they look at Robert and see that he's no longer breathing. Robert's body is cold. They try to close his eyes and mouth, but rigor mortis has already begun. The moment they dreaded most has come, and neither of them was ready. Megan trembles, while Barbara appears calm, though her eyes give her away. Barbara quickly decides they must keep the body cool overnight. She lowers the temperature of the house, opens and closes doors to create a draft, and turns on a fan. Megan asks if this is even legal. Barbara doesn't answer. She has another plan in mind. In the silence, Barbara confesses that someone is coming. She doesn't say who, only that she gave precise instructions: clean the living room, hang crystals, light candles and incense, and clear space for a circle. Megan remembers previous times her mother used teas and rituals, but never anything this extreme. Now, Barbara insists there is a real method to bring Robert back. Megan can't believe it. She tries to reason with her, reminding her that nothing can bring the dead back, but Barbara is convinced. She says her teacher told her about a practitioner capable of reversing death. She claims that if they follow every step, Robert will return. Megan feels a mix of anger and sadness. Outside, she secretly lights a cigarette. She remembers being a child and finding a dead bird in the yard. Robert had explained to her that death was final and that life was valuable precisely because it ends. That memory now clashes with Barbara's obsession to defy that truth. Back inside the house, Megan agrees to participate, not because she believes, but because she is afraid to leave her mother alone. She helps collect Robert's belongings, including photos and personal objects. Barbara says everything must be burned, even the most cherished items, for the ritual to work. Megan finds a photo of herself as a child with her father. She tries to keep it, but Barbara insists it must burn too. With a heavy heart, Megan throws it into the fire. As she covers windows and mirrors, Megan feels like she's being watched. In a reflection, she sees several glowing eyes. She panics, but when she looks again, nothing is there. The atmosphere grows stranger, filled with fear and tension. Night falls. An older man knocks at the door and enters without saying a word. He stares at Barbara and Megan as if he can smell them. He examines Barbara's hair and mouth, discovering she has plucked strands and removed teeth for the charm. The ritual begins. In the living room, lit only by candles, they place Robert's body inside a circle of strange symbols. Barbara hands the man a bag full of money. Megan asks how much she gave him. Barbara answers calmly, everything, all their savings. Megan is in shock. Now she understands why Barbara refused to help with the scholarships. She had given everything away for this ritual. Megan wants to stop it, but her mother won't listen. Barbara's desire to bring Robert back is stronger than anything else. The man begins giving instructions. First, he asks for tears. Barbara cries thinking about her husband. Megan can't. The man puts his hand over her eyes, forcing painful memories to surface. Megan remembers her father yelling at her to quit dancing, feels the weight of years of reproach, and finally breaks down crying. He collects their tears and places them on Robert's face. Then he asks for blood. With one quick motion, he cuts Barbara's finger. She doesn't flinch, accepting the pain is part of the process. Then he approaches Megan and does the same, severing one of her fingers. Megan screams, frozen by the pain. The blood of both women is smeared over Robert's body. The air in the room grows heavy. The man orders them to hold hands and repeat an incomprehensible chant. The candles flicker. The objects hanging from the ceiling sway. A strange energy fills the room. Then suddenly, silence. The silence feels suffocating. Barbara and Megan remain inside the circle, holding hands, staring at Robert's body. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows out all the candles and the room is plunged into darkness. A loud thud shakes the floor. With trembling hands, Megan lights a match and relights a candle. The first thing she notices is that Robert's body is gone. The man, who until now seemed unshakable, is wounded. His body trembles, his face contorts with pain, and suddenly something invisible drags him into the shadows. Megan and Barbara hear a deep growl, as if something is breathing right next to them. The circle meant to protect them seems weak. Barbara whispers that something went wrong. Megan, terrified, reaches into her pocket and pulls out the photo she hadn't burned. Barbara looks horrified. That mistake broke the ritual's balance. Without hesitation, Barbara yells that it must be burned immediately. Megan, crying, throws the photo into the fire. All the candles ignite at once, flooding the room with an intense light. For a moment, it seems like everything stabilizes. But what appears before them leaves them frozen in place. From the darkest corner emerges a grotesque figure. It is Robert, or at least his body. Deformed hands protrude from his torso, his eyes glow with an unnatural light, and his movements are jerky. The creature devours what remains of the ritual man, crunching bones with horrifying sounds. Megan covers her mouth to keep from screaming. Barbara, however, steps forward and claims it's still possible to bring Robert back. Megan insists that's not her father, that it's something else wearing his body. Barbara won't listen. She says that if they can lure him back into the circle, they can recover his spirit. To tempt him, Barbara cuts her own hand and lets the blood drip to the floor. The smell attracts the creature, which approaches slowly, but when it tries to cross the circle, it stops. It won't enter. Barbara stretches her wounded hand too far and, in an instant, the creature grabs her violently. Megan screams as she watches her mother being dragged out of the protective circle. It all happens in seconds. Barbara is devoured by the darkness, her screams fading until there is only silence. Blood begins seeping toward the edge of the circle. Megan, paralyzed, understands that her mother is gone. Alone, she curls up on the floor and breaks down in tears. Time passes, she doesn't know how long. Outside the circle, shadows begin to appear. Naked figures, strange bodies wandering aimlessly. They pass by without looking at her, as if she were invisible. Megan begs them for help, but no one responds. Her desperation grows. She recalls what the ritual man had said. 3 sacrifices. They had given tears and blood. 1 was missing. Maybe, if she completes the 3rd, she can get out. Gathering all her courage, she grabs a knife. In unbearable pain, she cuts off one of her fingers. She screams, but nothing happens. The candles barely move. She tries again, this time cutting a finger from the other hand. The pain overwhelms her and she faints. When she wakes, she sees a glow beneath the floor. She crawls to it and rips up some of the boards with great effort. On the other side appears an image of her house. For the first time, she smiles, convinced she has found a way out. She throws herself through the opening and finds herself walking through what looks like her old home. Everything is familiar. The rooms, the warm light, the objects untouched. She sees her father, younger and smiling, with a little girl version of Megan. She runs to them, trying to hug them. But as soon as she touches them, the scene freezes and dissolves into smoke. It wasn't real, just a memory trapped in that place. Megan realizes that none of it exists anymore. Through tears, she whispers goodbye and lets go of the illusion. The false home disappears, and Megan is back in the ritual room. She's once again inside the circle, bleeding and exhausted. Outside, something moves. It's Barbara's silhouette, but it's no longer really her. Her body is mutilated, with glowing eyes and twisted movements. Megan stares at her with pain in her eyes. She knows this isn't her mother, but she speaks to her anyway. She tells her that despite everything, she always loved her, that she now understands her actions came from fear and a desperate kind of love, even if they were wrong. She admits she's tired and can't go on any longer. Barbara doesn't respond. She just stares from the darkness, a distorted shadow of who she once was. Megan takes a deep breath, looks at the candles that still protect her, and makes a decision. With trembling lips, she blows hard. The flame goes out. In that instant, a blinding white light floods the room. Everything disappears: the circle, the symbols, the shadows, the creature wearing Robert's face, and the twisted figure of Barbara.